You know, Supriya, in this week's cover story, right, we spoke about likening the M40, basically the middle group, to the middle child. They're not always in the center of attention, but we know that their struggle is real. So is that why we put the spotlight on them this week?
Yes, because why we wanted to actually focus on the M40 is we felt that this group has been neglected for the longest time.
Okay.
Much of the attention has always been on the B40, and this was more pronounced in last year's budget speech, where a lot of people felt that the M40 was sort of left out from the whole equation. So these are the same group, as a letter in Malaysia, Kini had pointed out, a letter to the editor, that this is the group that's actually too rich to qualify for any subsidies that the B40 is currently getting, and they're also not rich enough, or they probably don't have the means to enjoy that T20 lifestyle, you know, private tuition, going for ballet classes and so on. They can provide that to their children. So that is the quandary that the M40 is currently in, and that's why we thought with the stimulus coming next week, we thought though we understand that the stimulus that is about to be announced is for the COVID-19 and the sectors affected by that, but we thought it will give a good opportunity to highlight the plight of this group, and for any initiatives to probably jumpstart from there.
All right.
So that's why we wanted to focus on the M40.
Okay, so you spoke to quite a few experts who had a lot of things to say. They had, you know, a number of suggestions, but what do you think? What were the best, you know?
So the experts we spoke to were economists and tax experts.
Okay.
And they gave very good suggestions and their view on the whole thing. Of course, they felt that with the stimulus coming, it's going to be more COVID-19 focused on those sectors. But in the long term, they felt that it's more of a structural problem that needs to be fixed, which has been talked about a lot. Affordable housing and education, those are the things that actually need to be focused on to help our M40. And also healthcare. They felt that healthcare costs and housing costs are what's actually bogging down our M40. And I like somewhat of our, in terms of tax, what our tax experts had actually suggested, that we could have like a broader tax bracket, so we don't actually penalize people who want to move up the chain to, you know, who earn a lot more money, and then suddenly they're faced with a higher tax, you know, percentage. Like Mr. Amajit from EY, he gave the example of someone who has his chargeable income go from 50,000 to 70,000 will see a 6 percentage point increase in tax from 8 to 14%, whereas someone who probably would see his chargeable income increase from 1 million to 2 million only sees a 2 percentage point an increase. So it's a struggle for the M40, and he says that we should actually be rewarding them for the fruits of their labor. They should be able to enjoy it, and there should be that incentives for them to actually move up the value chain and move up on their salary scales.
I mean, I do agree, you know, of course, the main thing that everyone, you, me, want is actually a structural reform now, which we know isn't easy and is painful, and after what we saw yesterday, there's going to be more uncertainties, right? So what from this stimulus, you know, could be made permanent? Yes, it's going to focus on COVID, but anything from the stimulus that should be made permanent?
Probably I can't really speak on the stimulus because maybe it's going to affect I mean, it's going to focus on the COVID-19, but what I think is probably, maybe we could start from the tax part. I don't know, maybe actually like what is the tax expert, more reliefs probably coming in to probably aid those who are affected by the COVID-19. That's one part. But in the longer term, like everybody talks about education, so I think if you look at it in a scenario where someone who probably, if we had a bigger budget, a bigger allocation for education, probably we could help that person maybe be a better productive worker, and then there's that impetus from the employer to probably pay more. They would have the justification, and so we wouldn't have this problem where everyone's saying like I can't pay the worker more because the worker has to give me the output, the productivity. Productivity does not justify the salary. So it's a whole circle, and maybe that's why it probably needs to start with education.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Age Weekly at all good newsstands.